Ladies and gentlemen, this has got to be the most saddest day in all of geekdom, as we lost one of the most influential, if not the most influential and legendary comic book artists / writers of all time, Mr. Stan Lee. Let's talk about it. What is going on, everybody? This is HDX, and I know I have been late to what happened last Monday, or one of the saddest losses in all of the comic book world, and I'm recording this right now on Thursday, on basically a Thursday. I know I've been late to the party. I've been busy with a lot of stuff as of late. That being said, this is by far the saddest days in the comic book world. Any comic book fan, anybody who's been a part of geekdom, especially the ones who are big fans of the Marvel comic universe, that we recently lost the man, the father, the founder of the Marvel Comics universe, none other than the legendary Stan Lee. Excelsior to you, and I salute you. As you can see here, I am playing one of my favorite Marvel Comics video games, one of my favorite games, X-Men, the arcade game. I'm playing this on an emulator. And these are one of the games that I asked myself, why was this not ported on the Sega Genesis nor the Super Nintendo Entertainment System? Why Konami couldn't do that at the time? I mean, they did it with the Ninja Turtles. I mean, why not they couldn't do it with the Simpsons and the X-Men? But that's besides the point here. The point of this video is that I'm going to show my love and respect to the very man who created the Marvel Comics, that with all the very comic book heroes that we enjoy, the Incredible Hulk, Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, Black Panther, Captain Marvel, one of my favorites, the Uncanny X-Men. This is one of the very comic books that I remember reading since I was a kid. One of my cousins gave it to me, and I loved everybody. And also my personal favorite, the Punisher. That has no specific superpowers, but he has super strength and he kicks ass with guns. And let's not forget Daredevil, Silver Surfer. I can go on and on and on. And that's what I love about Marvel Comics, is that they have so many great heroes, so many awesome villains, so many great story arcs. The art looks amazing, and I enjoy reading them since my past childhood. And I passed down so many of these great Marvel superheroes memories to my little sister, and my little sis loves the Marvel comic books. One of her favorite comic books is the Fantastic Four, one of her favorite Marvel heroes. And it's all thanks to Stan Lee. If it wasn't for Stan Lee, this world would have been so dull without his amazing imagination. Like, hands freaking down. And my little baby nephew, Liam, he is obsessed with Spider-Man. He freaking loves Spider-Man. Like, he has Spider-Man everything, from the toys, to the video games, to the costumes, etc., etc. And that's what I love about Marvel's merchandising. I mean, has from everything. To t-shirts, the toys, the action figures, the video games, to everything in freaking between. Before George Lucas went full ham when it comes to the merchandise, when it comes to Star Wars, and I freaking love Star Wars, Stan Lee was basically George Lucas 2 decades earlier. From buttons to Halloween costumes to heck, even a full album. And this was way back in the 1950s, way before George Lucas started the Star Wars franchise in the 1970s. I salute him from that. Oh, and let's not forget that he fought back against censorship. Now, comics got a little bit racy back in the 1940s. And by the 1950s, the government made a censorship committee titled the Comics Code Authority. And then Stan Lee fired the very first shots that obliterated to what could be that said censorship. And I salute him for that as well. Thank you, Mr. Lee.
From the government, from the Office of Health, Education, and Welfare. They thought it would really be beneficial if I would get a story about the dangers of drug addiction and featured in one of our top books.
Lee and artists Gil Kane and John Romita worked out a 3-issue story arc in which Spider-Man fought the Green Goblin. In a subplot, Spider-Man saves an inner-city kid so stoned he thinks he can fly.
Now, I know nothing about drugs, so I didn't mention what he overdosed on. I didn't know.
Later, Spider-Man's friend Harry, the Green Goblin's son, gets hooked on pills and suffers a near-fatal overdose.
The reader didn't feel we were giving him a lecture. It was just an incident in a story, which I feel is the best way to do it.
Only one problem. The Comics Code Authority didn't want Lee to do it at all.
Rejected. We could not put the seal of approval on those issues. I said, why? They said, according to the code, you're not allowed to mention drugs. I said, but we're not telling the kids to take drugs. The whole purpose of this is to show the danger of drug addiction. Doesn't matter, you're not allowed to mention drugs.
At an impasse, Lee turned to his publisher, Martin Goodman, for support.
I said, Martin, I want to do these books anyway, so we won't have the seal of approval. I was so proud of him. He backed me to the hilt. He said, absolutely, Stan, just let's send him out.
For 3 months, Marvel published Spider-Man without the code's approval.
Once again, I thank and salute Stan Lee for using and protecting the First Amendment, that is free speech. Particularly from the excerpt that we just seen is that I love that this 3-part story arc between Spider-Man versus the Green Goblin. In this 3-part story arc between Spider-Man versus the Green Goblin, it felt like it was an amazing, well done public service announcement in disguise about drugs. And that's what I love about comic book superheroes. Not only that they teach us great stories and saving the day, but they also teach us some great lessons. And believe it or not, do you remember Epic Comics, one of the best comic book publishers? It is also created by Stan Lee, and it was a division of Marvel as well. I mean, did you even know that? Well, guess what? Believe it or not, Epic Comics has not only translated, but colored one of the most epic anime mangas of all time, Akira. That's right, believe it or not, Epic's a division of Marvel Comics. Specifically, the first 2 issues of Akira was done by Epic Comics. And it helped started the late 80s anime revolution that began anime import and mass in the Western countries. Now, as I take a look at the 3 comics that I own, that I bought in a Florida SuperCon that I attended 2 years ago, I started to think about the great times that I remembered. I'm watching the movies, playing the video games, owning the t-shirts, and etc. and etc. And then passing it down, that love of Marvel Comics to my little sister as we love being part of the geekdom community. I started to realize that Marvel Comics is more than just a brand. It is a part of history. It is a part of pop culture history that without it, this world would have been so dull without Stan Lee's amazing imagination. I freaking loved everything about it. And I'll tell you right now, like, comic books will never gonna be the same without him. And I'm really gonna miss him for the fact that he's not gonna make more cameos anymore in many Marvel movies. And I remember that cameo that he was made in The Princess Diaries 2 Royal Engagement. It's kind of weird if you ask me, but that's besides the point. In conclusion, I want to salute and give love and a thank you, a very sincere thank you, to a great man who not only created a great comic book universe, but a great phenomenon that will continue in pop culture for many years and decades to come. Excelsior, Mr. Lee. Excelsior.